Hey, this is Molly. Welcome back to my YouTube channel as we take a look at the Libra Full Moon happening on March 28th, 2021 at 2:48 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time. So let's take a look at this very dynamic chart and all the layers of energies that are happening here because we have a lot going on. So first of all, we always start with the moon. So when it's a full moon, the moon is at its brightest in the sky and it's big and it's really shining brightly. And it's at 8 degrees of Libra here, directly opposing the sun at 8 degrees of Aries. So that's a very typical occurrence, of course, when you have the sun and the moon on different sides of the zodiac, illuminating different areas of our energies. Now, what makes this particular full moon exceptional is that we have Chiron at 8 degrees of Aries, along with Venus at 8 degrees of Aries. So all three planets exactly conjunct at 8 degrees of Aries in your chart. Now, there's many pieces to put together here. First of all, Libra is ruled by Venus. Venus would be the ruler of this full moon, and she is here with Chiron, with the sun in Aries, a sign that is not typically comfortable for her. Venus in Aries tends to be very independent. She doesn't want to share. She wants to do it on her own. She can be quite innovative, quite a maverick, and quite a leader, however. And so she's harnessing these parts of her energy to understand more about who she is. Now she's conjunct this Chiron at 8 degrees of Aries, and Chiron has already been at this degree point 3 times throughout 2020. May and June, August and September, now back here in March, and Chiron will return to 8 degrees of Aries November, December of this year, and January of 2022. So Chiron is in between this point in your chart, meaning there will be more times that Chiron touches this 8 degrees. But there's a strengthening here of what you've been healing throughout 2020. The strength comes from the sun in Aries. The sun is very strong in Aries. It adds strength, courage, warmth, a sense of confidence, a reminder that what you've been moving through, what you've been healing is supported. And there's openings here to higher levels of consciousness coming in from the sun, exactly conjunct Chiron and exactly conjunct Venus. So this lineup is a focal point of energies in your chart. Even though it's a Libra full moon, Libra answers to this Venus, and it really brings alive both sides of your chart where you find 8 degrees of Aries and 8 degrees of Libra. So what we could say here is that because this moon in Libra is very objective, diplomatic, seeing both sides of a situation, both sides of yourself, there's a stepping away from what you've been healing and working on, the new parts of yourself that have been forming, so that you can really look at this new relationship with yourself that's emerging. And this Libra full moon is asking you to see it from a different perspective, to look at if you've been projecting or mirroring something. That is a moon in Libra quality. This can also be an energy of codependence or comparison. I feel like what this energy is saying come back to yourself, come back to what you've been moving through and healing, because it feels like this energy is so important that you're putting together a fuller story of who you are now. So whenever we have Venus conjunct the sun, this is also important. It's a Venus star point, and I have a podcast for you on March 8th that talks more about the Venus star point energies, especially conjunct Chiron in Aries. And it goes into this particular energy even more in terms of what we're each healing in our own energy, in our own aura, and even at a root chakra level, which is Aries, which is that sense of self, how you feel safe in the world, safe to be yourself, healing those wounds that maybe have been exceptionally hard. The wounds that are painful, they're vulnerable, they're insecure. Typically with Chiron is where we have tears, where we have parts of ourselves coming up that are insecure and that are looking for answers. Well, with this Venus star point conjunct Chiron in Aries, there's a new sense of self emerging. And I feel like this opposition to the moon in Libra is a turning point. There's a turning point based on what you're seeing right now that you didn't see before. This can show you patterns in relationships, things that have been repeating, that have been perhaps it's almost been like, how do I break the cycle? How do I break this pattern? How do I see something in a different light? This is the full moon that shows you something in a new way. And it asks you to come back to yourself, what you're changing and healing within yourself, because you are the source of all these relationships or these patterns. You are the source of your own self-love, self-worth. And there's an energy here about softening the ego, softening the edges, and looking at what's underneath. Because that Aries energy can be very impulsive and impatient. It can rush ahead. And so what is underneath that? What's underneath that's more authentically you, that's been rising up and that's been healing? So this is very much about coming back to yourself and looking at what's emerging, the new parts of you that are forming, but you can see it objectively. You can see the other side of it. Perhaps you can even see your own role in relationships, or the certain ways that you've shown up, or the ways you've participated. Again, there's an objectivity here. There's something that's coming to light in a very big way. Now, this moon in Libra is being supported through a trine from Saturn at 11 degrees of Aquarius, which is stabilizing. Saturn brings in strength. It brings in a sense of, what do I need to do and know right now? This can be good for the mental processes because of how these are air signs. So there could be some new realizations here that are helping you get grounded and clearer. There's a clarity here that is helping you understand more about some of these dynamics, and maybe even what the relationships have reflected back to you about yourself. Now, the other strong energy you'll see over here is this Mars is now at 14 degrees of Gemini, conjunct the North Node. This is an action-oriented energy of what you've been learning in Gemini. This brings in a desire to make it so, to put it into action, to go for it. This is a communication energy, so maybe there's something you're ready to say, understand, or learn. Gemini is about how we process information mentally, what we think about, and what we understand. Mars going over that North Node connects us to a new direction, to take action, a new path, a new choice, something higher, something that perhaps pertains more to a sense of purpose or a sense of growth. This can be very energizing, especially when you're aware of what the Gemini energy has brought up or revealed to you in the forms of stories, narratives, information, communication. I feel this is a strong activation of the throat chakra. This is something that's being put into motion now. There's movement here. It's not just in your head. It's not just these thoughts circling around, because that Mars brings in action. So that's also been working with the moon. And in fact, that Mars in Gemini is conjunct the North Node for a few days. So it's quite fascinating that it's exactly conjunct the North Node during this very powerful Libra full moon. So you'll see here that we also have a grand trine in these earth signs, meaning this Mars has already been in communication with this Saturn at 11 degrees of Aquarius. They've already been making plans together. There are already ideas in motion. Maybe there's commitments, projects, a lot happening that's coming together now. We haven't had this much air energy in the cosmos for a while. So this is what is moving us forward with these ideas, with these conversations, with the right people. There's connection points here that are taking us even higher. And this is a grand trine in air. And with a grand trine, the energy just flows. It's in motion. It's a continual energetic flow because they're all in the air signs of Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra, and they're all connecting. And right after this Libra full moon is exact, the moon will go forth, and when it reaches 11 degrees of Libra, it'll make an exact trine to Saturn, and then it'll get to 14 degrees of Libra and make an exact trine to both Mars and the North Node. So there's something that comes through here on March 28th, and then it could be March 29th when more things click. So there's a few days of this energy being very strong and very ripe. So with every grand trine, the energy is supported. It just flows, it moves. It can be locked into something. You have to make sure that it's not just in your head, because strong air energy can be a lot of talking and no action. But with Mars here, it feels like there is action, especially since Mars is the ruler of Aries and we have a very strong Aries presence. Now, in addition to the grand trine, you can see that we also have what's called a kite. A kite configuration is when this energy of the air planets is really supported to go higher. There's a direction there that points to the Aries planets. And so this is really putting ideas in motion, putting those things you've been thinking about into some kind of new emerging or developing idea or practice. In Aries, it's also something that is beginning or starting. This is an initiation energy. It's something that's ready for liftoff because of that kite configuration and how the energy points to the Sun, Chiron, and Venus in Aries. So we have here a turning point. I feel it as a heart healing, something healing at a deeper level with that Chiron and Venus energy. There's a strength here, a strength of self that's coming through that maybe takes a little bit of time to tap into or figure out. Keep in mind that all of these energies are masculine. The air signs and the fire signs are masculine energies. And this is a strengthening. Again, it feels like 2020 really brought up a lot of things for us across the board. Obviously, that goes without saying. But when we look specifically at this Chiron here, that Chiron has been showing us something that we need to see within ourselves. It's very personal. There's been something very personal that has been coming up within us, and we're realizing it. We're seeing what it is. And again, I feel like it's related to relationships because of this moon in Libra and because of the Venus energy here. But Venus, Chiron, Sun conjunct is bringing in a higher consciousness around who you are now, what you need in relationships, what really matters to you, what's authentically you, and then how you share that, how you really feel strong in that, and how there are parts of yourself that are excited about this new energy coming forth and emerging. There's also energies here that have been in motion that we're ready to get started with. And everything with the Aries energy is about beginnings. It's about self-leadership, trusting your gut, trusting what feels right for you, allowing that inspiration to carry you forward. And with the Chiron energy, we've been doing some deep healing around what's underneath. The Aries energy is also related to anger or those gut level emotional responses. And that Chiron is asking us to go underneath the surface. What's in there? Do you see what's happening within you at a deeper level? Because it could be that you're not feeling safe in your own energy, or you haven't felt seen, you haven't felt recognized. There's parts of yourself that you weren't aware of. And that Chiron energy brings it all up and reveals it to us. Now we also have over here, you can see this Chiron is talking to Saturn throughout this year. And that Saturn energy is strengthening. That Saturn energy is stabilizing. It brings in answers and solutions, and it brings in clarity. So Chiron has been supported by Saturn, will continue to be supported by Saturn. This gives us maturity in our decisions and in our direction. This is also a commitment to self, a commitment to what you've learned. There's no going back. This is all new energy. This is new parts of yourself coming forward. This is a newness that you're ready to embrace and embark on. Now, you can see here that we also have Mercury conjunct Neptune in Pisces. This is very intuitive, emotional, sensitive. There could be messages coming through, especially in your dream state around this time, around this week. There could be things that are emerging within you that you just are feeling in a very powerful way. And this can also be a sense of just trusting what feels right for you, even if mentally you don't understand it in a linear fashion. There's something here where it's understanding the bigger picture of it all, and how to trust what you can't see, how to trust what you're feeling, and how to further trust your intuition. Now, a few more things to note here that are really fascinating about this particular Libra full moon is that this is a Venus star point energy where Venus is conjunct the Sun about March 23rd until March 30th. So the last week in March, the Sun and Venus are traveling together. Then they meet up with Chiron, and then they oppose Libra, the moon in Libra. So there's something about this whole last week in March that's really preparing you for what is new in your heart now, and how it's being seeded and planted to grow and develop over the course of this next year. Now, the really interesting things about this chart is that not only is this a Venus star point full moon, which is very rare, but Mars is conjunct the North Node of growth, the next path, a destiny, a sense of I have to do this, I have to try this. Then the other thing that I realized as I was preparing here, last June 4th, we had our last Venus star point at 13 degrees of Gemini when Venus was retrograde. So this right here is activating something from June 2020 that was in your heart, that was opening up to you, that you've been thinking about in Gemini. Now the North Node is here. Now Mars is here, which is that masculine energy. So the feminine energy of Venus was here in June 2020 at 13 degrees of Gemini for our last Venus star point. Now it's a deep activation. What are you going to do? What are you going forward with? And if you think about it, June 2020 and here we are in March 2021, there has been a gestation period, a development, something perhaps coming up to your higher awareness that you've been thinking about or wondering about. Again, it's a mental thing in Gemini, but now with Mars, there's action. And the other thing that I wanted to share is that later on in December of this year, December 2021, Venus is going to be conjunct this Pluto. They'll be conjunct at 25, 26 degrees of Capricorn. There's a lot here where we're changing relationship patterns, changing maybe what we were taught or thought relationships were. There's a lot of unconsciousness that's coming to light with these energies. There's a lot of new self-awareness, new sense of who you are emerging, and even in current relationships where you're ready to share more of who you are now in those current long-term relationships, where you're opening up to more of what you want the other person to know about you. And again, with Venus, it can be siblings, sisters, women, friends, friendships. I mean, the Venus energy is how we relate to people. And because it's all over this chart, there's something really significant about how we're understanding ourselves, understanding relationships, and what it means to receive and be seen, what it means to be acknowledged and recognized. This is a very rare energy that I feel is rising us up into our higher hearts, almost like higher standards for the people in our life, more that we want from relationships, more openness, more connection, maybe more vulnerability, more courage. There's something here that's changing relationships throughout this year. And there's something about this Libra full moon that is a turning point in what your heart needs, in your own healing journey, and in what you value and how you connect with people and how you connect. And if they're ready or if they're on that same page as you, you could also have some revelations here around where the connection doesn't feel authentic or true, where maybe you've outgrown some people or you're needing to just keep following your own path. So all these layers here of relationship themes is very prominent. And then it's happening when the sun is in Aries, which is coming back to yourself for your own answers. That it's in knowing yourself that you can show up authentically in relationships. And I feel like that Chiron is knowing our own vulnerabilities, but also knowing we're still lovable and beautiful in the ways that maybe we didn't embrace before. So softening the ego, softening the edges, going into what's underneath, understanding that there's a lot of healing work that has been done that will continue throughout this year, but that you may actually connect or call in someone who reflects that energy back to you, and that there's some beautiful energies in this chart. Again, it's very rare. And so I hope this is giving you some good things to think about in terms of your own journey and what you've been learning about yourself, what you've been learning through your experiences of relationships, and then what you're ready to authentically claim and understand about who you are now. So again, I do talk about this Venus star point energy even more in the March 8th podcast episode, if you want to listen to that. But I hope that this gives you some big, perhaps even some big awareness that this is a big Libra full moon. Again, it's a turning point. It's about self-acknowledgement, self-understanding, knowing more about who you are and how you want to share your energy with others in that authentic, courageous way that leads to a more satisfying life experience, more satisfying ways of experiencing life. But I feel like there's something bigger at play here. And, you could say the word destiny, which, everyone has opinions on what destiny means, if something's destined or fated. But, there's free will. So nothing is ever totally destined if people override it with their free will. But there's something here that's an opening. And it's a beautiful opening, a beautiful doorway. And I hope that that supports you in whatever is happening in your own life or in your own world, and also prepares you to have the courage to trust these new parts of yourself that are emerging. So thank you so much for joining me, and you can find out more about my astrology programs and courses below this video if you want to learn more about your chart. I even have a course about the astrology of relationships, and if you use coupon code STAR30, you get it for $30 off, and that can help you understand more about the relationships in your life as they relate to your own energy. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you back here very soon, and I wish you a beautiful Libra full moon.